Ryan here with LongRangeOnly.com. In this video, we're going to talk about the Zeiss SFL 12x50. Okay, if you watched my first impressions video, nothing has really changed. What you're getting with this binocular is 50 millimeter low light performance in a standard 10x42 package. Okay, now let's just walk through the comparison. Generally speaking, there are so many binoculars out there, I can't possibly compare them all. And when you talk about 10 and 12 and 14s, and you talk about 40, 42, 50s, I cannot cover every single comparison that there is. So I'm going to focus on one comparison. You can call it fair, you can call it not fair. That's up to you. But the way I think that this was intended to be compared and the way I'm going to compare it is these 12x50s are about the same size as most 10x42s. Okay, so for the size of what you're going to carry and the weight that you're going to carry something in your bino harness, these are slightly heavier, but for all intents and purposes, they're about the same. You're going to get better low light performance. So that is the number one reason I would take these binoculars. Most of the game that you're finding is going to be last light or first light, and you need that low light performance. Okay, this is going to lose out on 100% overall clarity, the crispness of the image to something like the Zeiss SF or the Swaro ELs or the Swaro NL Pures. When it comes to all-out clarity on a resolution chart, they're going to be slightly behind, not much, but they're going to be slightly behind. And the edge-to-edge clarity, these do have field flattening technology, if I'm not mistaken, but the edge-to-edge clarity, or the crispness at the very edge, is going to be slightly less on these than it is on the Swaro NL Pures, the ELs, and the Zeiss SFs. But that's really it. The low light performance is where it's at. So for about the same size and same weight as your typical 10x42, you're going to get more low light performance, and that's where the bread and butter of this is. So in the middle of the day, the clarity is not going to be quite as good as some of those others, but in the times it really matters, this is going to be able to spot those deer, the elk, whatever you're hunting a little bit better because of the bigger objectives. All right, those of you that watch my content know that I'm not a big spec person. Most of the time you can go get that information off the website and figure out if it meets your needs. But for the point of trying to explain why this binocular that we're talking about, the 12x50 Zeiss SFLs, specifically that model, you can generalize some of the other models in this release, the 8x50s, the 10x50s. You can take this information and you can break it down how you want, but I'm focusing on the 12x50s that we're actually reviewing. So the benefits that a 50 millimeter is going to give you over a 42 millimeter is roughly 42% more light to your eyes. Okay, so you're going to see here on this picture, it says what I just said, and this particular binocular, the 12x50, has 90% light transmission. You're going to see in a couple of slides here down the road that the Zeiss doesn't have the highest light transmission, and I want to reiterate that the reason why that I'm showing you this stuff in the first place is because Zeiss has packaged a 12x50 into roughly the same size as other 42 millimeters. So if you compare it for size and weight, you're going to end up getting better light transmission, not because the specs are better, but because the package allows the bigger objective, which is going to give you more light. That's the piece that I really am trying to pound home here. So right here, you can see that the SFL 50s are significantly smaller than other 50 millimeter options out there. We're not going to dwell on this picture very long. That's pretty easy to see. Okay, the next slide we're going to show the Zeiss SFL 50 versus other 42 millimeter options out there. The Swaro ELs and the NL Pures are roughly the same size. The Vortex Razors are quite a bit larger, and the Leicas are a little bit smaller. I'm not a big fan of the ergonomics of them, but you can see that they're in size. The Leica does win, but it's still a 42 millimeter, and so it's not going to have the benefits of that 50 millimeter glass. Okay, here, these next couple slides are gonna, I have to use them to show you several different pictures to pound home one specific idea, I guess. You can see the field of view when you're comparing this one, and right here is 10 by 50s. So when you're comparing the 10 by 50s, the only thing that does beat the Zeiss SFL 10 by 50s is the NL Pures. It beats the other ones by quite a bit. The next shot we're going to see here, you have the 10 power SFL versus other 10 by 42s. It has the best twilight factor out of those options. And then when I show you the next picture with the 12 bys, it's going to have even better twilight factor. But what I really showed you this is so that we can compare the 12 by 50s field of view versus these 10 by 42. So it is less because it's a 12 power. Obviously it's quote unquote zoomed in further, but it doesn't lose a lot. Now if you have to have a large field of view, then I would consider the 10 power, and you can see those specs here. It still has the best twilight factor because it's a 10 by 50. Of all these options, it has the best twilight factor, and it has, like I said, the second best field of view. So it's a really, really good binocular if you want that 10 by 50. But next we're going to show you, you have to use these two pictures, this one here and the next one. But this next one, you can see that, again, the SFL, when you're comparing other 12 power binoculars, has the best field of view. I really don't know why this 14 power is over here on the side, but you can see it's got 315 versus the others at 300, 288, 299. And then if you go back and look at the picture we were just looking at, you can see 315 is lower than the other 10 millimeters, but not a whole lot. So in my opinion, what you're looking at is, do you want the bigger field of view or do you want the better twilight factor? To me, the twilight factor wins. We need to be glassing in that low light conditions. I do like field of view, especially for the way I glass, because it allows you to stay in one spot and see more stuff as opposed to switching or having to do gridding more often. And then this last picture I'm going to show you just shows the weight of the 50 versus other 42s, and it's just barely heavier. So I think that explains in pretty good detail the point I'm trying to make about where these two fit in. I think that the slight decrease in resolution versus the competitors is trumped by the better field of view and or, depending on which option you get, the better twilight factor. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said, it's very difficult to compare binoculars today because there's so many different ways to compare it. You know, 10 power, 12 power, 14 power, 15 on, and then you got 32, 42, 40s, 44s, whatever, right there in that 40 range, you got 50s. So it's very difficult. There's tons of different ways that you can do those comparisons. So I'm picking comparing size per performance, and I think that's what they're going for with this binocular. So like I said, this 12 by 50 is basically the same size and basically the same weight as most 10 by 42s, but you're getting better low light performance. You are giving up a little bit of resolution and a little bit of edge-to-edge clarity, and outside of bragging to your friends at how awesome the binoculars are, that's really not helping you in most glassing conditions. There are definitely conditions where it is helpful. You know, when you're on the tripod and you're glassing, and if you want to get as much out of the image as you can before you do your scan, then that edge-to-edge clarity can be good. When the outside atmospheric conditions are perfect, that clarity and that resolution can be good, but most of the time we are finding most of our game, it's in those low light conditions. And I have compared these side by side with ELs and SFs, and the low light performance is better, not only on paper, but it's better out in the field. So I think that's where these binoculars are going to shine. If that's what you're after, the best low light performance, then these are something that you consider. The 12 by 50s is what I would buy. The field of view is on par with the best out there. It's not quite as good as the NL Pures from Swarovski, but again, there's too many different ways to compare, whether it's a 10 or 12 or whatever. But they're slightly behind field of view on the NL Pures, but the low light performance is better. So I think that's where you're gonna win with these, if that's what you're after. Please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on notifications so you can be notified of future videos. And I'll have a link down below to a thread on the forum where you can ask me any questions. I'll try to put Zeiss's comparison charts in there. Like I said, there's tons of different ways to compare this, and they've done a really good job. So I'll try to get those on there for you. If you're not a member on longrangeonly.com, it's quick, it's free, it's easy. Go ahead and sign up. We'd love to have you. There's a lot of great information, not only from the editors, but also from the forum members. We appreciate you taking the time to watch. Have a great day.